So I had an interesting little conversation with Dean Martin last night. Hey everybody, it's old Roger D, Channel Downstar, and this is a one-of-a-kind, odd little video I decided to do because it really kind of affected me, and I don't talk about this stuff very much, but I thought I'd just throw it on tape and maybe this will be up. Maybe it won't never get up, but that's what she said. But I had a very interesting dream last night. Nightmare, a dream that turned into a nightmare that turned into a dream. It was it's weird. I've been very depressed lately. Very out of it. Very unsociable. I just want to stay in bed all day. And last night I went to bed around 2 a.m. and I slept till like 12 the next morning. I mean, I could have got up at like 10 or 11, but I just like, no, I'm going back to bed. So I had this very bizarre dream, which was partially a rerun dream or a part 2 dream. Did you ever have those dreams where you dream something and then you kind of remember it, and because you forget things when you go to sleep or when you wake up, and then weeks later or months later, you have the same kind of dream with the same characters and the same setting, and while you're in the dream, you know, oh, I dreamt this before, and I'm going to try to do a little thing differently because I remember what's coming up, and then you try to do something differently and it doesn't work. It still leads you on that pathway down. Those of you who have dreams probably know what I'm trying to say. Dreams are bizarre, man, and I love them. They're little movies while you're unconscious. They are. They're like, you know, you're out of it and you have these little movies in your head, and then you wake up and they go poof and oof. And you don't remember them, or you remember fleeting memories of them. Well, this one was pretty embedded. There's the word I was looking for. Pretty embedded in my mind, to the point where all day I was thinking of this, for good and for bad. Yeah, okay. The start was weird. The start was just odd. The start was, and it probably stemmed through me playing the game Zombie Army Trilogy, because there's a portion in there where you have to kill skeletons, and you know, you just kick them or shoot them or club them or whatever, these little walking skeletons, or else it could be Jason and the Argonauts or Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, something like that. But there were skeletons in my head, and when you killed these skeletons, they floated. They from the rib cage up. They just you smashed them. It's a weird video. When you smashed them, their bottom half just crushed, but their top half, almost like a soul, from the rib cage up, just would start floating. And In my previous dream, those skeletons only got so far up before they just fell, and it was what I'm going to get to in a way, and it kind of connects to the video game I was saying. And so I was battling these skeletons, and every time I would hit one, they'd go flying, and I'd look up and I'd see the stormy night, and I'd see these skeletons going, ah, and then all of a sudden they would just collapse to the ground. Last night's dream, they didn't collapse to the ground. They just kept floating higher and higher and higher to the point where I couldn't see them. They went beyond the clouds up above. And of course, it was stormy night and thunder and lightning, no rain, but it was one of those spooky type of things. And then I ended up on a path with trees and forests on both sides. And I got to this little area where there were like holes in a fence over there, and there was a little shack over there, and I didn't go into any of them because the last time I dreamt about this area, I did go into those areas, and the little hole in the fence that I went through led me to this path that led me into this labyrinth of bizarre hallways. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because it's going to spoil something that happens before. And I went into that house, and that house, all right, what I'm getting at, it was like I was filming myself, or filming. I was dreaming myself in a video game, probably because I'm playing so much of them, you know, like Outlast and things like that, where you're following a path and you're going in here and you're going in there. I was in the house and there was nothing there, so there was no reason this time to go into that house. I just kept going down the path. And eventually I got to an area, wow, I'm seeing it. I just can't describe it. It's like, it's probably, you know, most people when they have the dream, they say, well, this happened and this happened. But if you're really into the dream, it's hard to explain what's happening because so much is happening visually. But what I remember is I got to this part and these people started chasing me. And I call them farm people. Could be chainsaw people from Texas Chainsaw, you know, the cook and the hitchhiker. It was just these bizarre people. There was a woman with long hair, kind of like the old woman from Granny from Addams Family, was running after me. And I had to turn and run away from them and get away from them, because if they did catch you, they did kill you. They slit your neck. They threw an axe in your back, and I died a bunch of times, which again brings me back to the video game thing, because when you die, you go on. You start again, and you continue on. But I didn't start from the skeleton part. I started from going down the path. So it was like there were these, you know, areas where if you died, you just restarted, replayed. And it was one time there was a dog after me, a wolf. It had red glowing eyes, and I remember running down the path and turning and going, "Stay, stay!" And the dog would stop, and he would look around and look at me, and I was running, and I kept looking back, and then he would just like start running after me again, and I go, "Stay, stay!" It's bizarre, man, and I'm feeling really bizarre telling everybody this, but hey, content for my channel, hey, something different. Dawnstar's Nightmares. So the last time I was caught, because I did go into this one area and then they still were following me, and I tried to get into a house and there were people there, and oh man, and they just kept killing me. Axe in the back. Axe in the back hurts so freaking much when you're in a dream and you think this is so real. you can't breathe, and it's like I really died, and arms being sliced off by machetes, just a guy coming up to you and going, whoop, and your arm goes flying off. Holy crap. And then game over. And the last time this old granny lady caught up to me, and I was trying to get into the hole in the fence where that maze was, because I figured if I went into the maze, I would get, well, I wouldn't get lost. Well, maybe I would, but I would get away from Granny with her big old butcher knife. And I didn't even get to the fence, and it was weird because it was like, okay, yeah. By that time I knew. By that time I was like, well, this is a game. I'm just going to restart right at this point. And so I just kind of like kneeled down, and it was like, all right. And she came up behind me, and she had the big old, butcher knife right at my neck. And all of a sudden the screen popped in front of me. And it was all bright and like a computer monitor. It was all just bizarre. And there were these weird, it was like a touch screen, and I could touch things, but there was no escape. It was like restart, and again, I'm playing too many frickin' video games that are entering into my nightmares. And I didn't know what to do with the screen. It was like being confused when your computer F's up, and you just don't know what to touch, and you touch and you get the blue screen. And so I was just like, all right, let me just restart this. Go ahead, cut my neck. She cut my head, and all of a sudden I'm back again. And that led to the point with the wolf coming after me. And I was saying, hold it, stop. And I was running, and I found the hole in the fence, and I got into the fence. And then I got into the maze, which was you go straight, and then you turn to the left, and then you turn to the right, and then there's this little fence. It was like covered by bushes, but if you noticed it, I'm so excited. You get into that thing, and then there were like these corridors of bushes, not walls, but the bushes, and you were able to go, and then they would split, and was like, oh, go this way, okay, I'm going to go this way, and then go this, another split, and go this way, and then you get it. All of a sudden, you didn't enter a doorway, you were in this room where these big giant framed photos of all these crazy hillbilly people were, and you you were like, oh, what's this? What's that? And then all of a sudden you looked at the floor. I'm saying all of a sudden you looked. This is what I was experiencing. I looked at the floor, and it was like you can't walk on it because you're going to fall down. And so you try to jump, and you get to the over the jump, and you're like, okay, you can go either the left or the right. And I went to the left, and here's this other guy coming with this big old knife. And then I looked to the right, and here's this other guy coming. I was like, okay, I'm going to die. Well, I'm going to come back the way I came in, and I'm just going to step on that floor. And I stepped on the floor, and all of a sudden it just collapsed, and I fell. And I remember falling slowly and looking up at the guys and giving them the finger, saying, you didn't get me, you didn't get me. And I landed on the ground, okay, and I got up, and I was in this hallway. If anybody had ever gone old enough to remember the 80s, when you went into a dance club or a bar, when you first walk in, there's this weird little hallway you go to, and you could put your coats up or whatever, and then as you keep walking, then everything opens up, and you got the bar, or you got dance floor or whatever. Fortunately, none of the guys came down. But this part that I'm going to continue on now was in the first nightmare I had of this section. The very first time I dreamed it, I dreamt of the hillbillies on that path, and the hole in the fence, and not the dog, but the granny and everything. And I must have woke up, or it never got to the point where I fell through the floor. This time I fell through the floor and went down the corridor, and I heard this wonderful music. Couldn't tell you what it was, but there were all these people there. And it was like, okay, now we're in this cocktail bar. There are people at the bar. There are people dancing. There are tables all around, and people are just, you know, and there was this path. I call it a path, but there was this way you can go. You can go to the restroom area, and then when you came back, as you're walking, out of the restroom, over onto the right, you see these like phone booth things. And who was it? Robert Mitchum? I think it was Robert Mitchum was in. He's an old actor. He was in one of the phone booths, and he was just kind of like doing that. And outside of an empty phone booth was Dean Martin. And Dean Martin was just like talking to Robert Mitchum. And I walked up to him, and I looked at Robert Mitchum. I didn't have much to say. I just kind of, and I looked at Dean and go, Dean, man, hey, it's great to meet you. Well, it was great to meet you. I started mentioning, I loved the old Matt Helm films, and I loved Texas Across the River. Across the river, I don't know that one. And in my mind, in the dream, I was like, oh, this is young Dean before he made those movies. It's like Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin. And I was, and it was weird because all of a sudden I realized that this bar I was in, wow, am I going nuts here, was these holograms of these dead celebrities. Because if I looked to my left, I saw Carol Channing, the girls. I saw Marilyn Monroe, and I didn't want to talk to them. I wanted to talk to Dean Martin, and he had the drink, and he was just talking and everything, and I patted him on the back. So it wasn't a hologram; he was solid. And then I looked over to Robert Mitchum, and it was this beautiful woman. I don't know who she was, but and in my dream, it took me like, in my mind, it took me like 30 seconds before I was able to say, wow, you're really freaking hot. Then I walked off, and then I got to the bar, and I saw my brother, who I haven't seen in like almost 5 years, and he's drinking with some friend or something, and then I went on my way, and I got to a section like in a supermarket where you have all the produce, and there's grapes, and there's carrots, and there's celery and lettuce, but the grape area had all these weird twinkling lights, and I was like, how do they make grapes that light up? What is this? And I walked up close to them, and I realized that they have grapes, but then they had these grape mock-ups that all blinked, and it made the whole counter look like the grapes were blinking. And then I came back out, and I went to the bar area, and then I was standing at the bar, and I looked over, and there was this huge window. These like giant ceiling to wall windows. Think space station. And outside was stars. And outside were these ships, these spaceships, just kind of flying by. You couldn't hear them, but nothing familiar, nothing like a TIE fighter, X-Wing, anything like that. They were just these bizarre flying ships that flew by. And I was just looking out the window, and then boom, darkness. And then I was sleeping again, and it was all gone. And I woke up, like I said, around noon, which was a long time to sleep. Geez, going to bed around, what did I say, 1, 2, and sleeping till noon. It was amazing, because when I woke up, I remembered everything, and I still remember. And all day today at work, I was just thinking about it and thinking about it and remembering it all. And remembering saying in my mind, man, I would love there be a game like that, a maybe virtual reality game where you go and you meet these hillbilly people. And if you're lucky enough to get away from them and get into the labyrinth and fall through a floor, you could meet your favorite celebrity holograms that are not holograms, because you can actually touch them and shake their hand. Oh, when I was meeting Dean Martin, I held up my hand to shake, and he had a cigarette, and he kept putting the cigarette out in my hand, and I was like, no, I don't want your cigarette. And I'm like, give me. And he goes, I got to get rid of this. And then finally I put it, and I grabbed it, and then I opened it, and the cigarette was gone. And then he shook my hand. Frickin' dreams, man. Dreams and nightmares are sometimes magical things, sometimes horrifying things. In my entire life, Thursday's my birthday. My Thursday, I'm going to be 58 frickin' years old. Geez, Thursday's my birthday. And in all those years, I've had many dreams that I still remember, still to this day, and a lot of dreams that I call rerun dreams, where it could be a year later and I'm there and I'm dreaming it, and I remember in the dream, I've been here before. I dreamt this location before, and I know what's going to happen right there, and I'm not going to walk there. I'm going to stop, and then all of a sudden, whoosh, I'm there, and it happens. I don't know. I know everybody in the comments are going to say you're fucked in the head, but I'm sure other people have rerun dreams and bizarre dreams and that. And the sad thing is, when you have a dream like this or a nightmare like this, 98% of the time you don't remember any of it. You might have a little vision, a little something while you're at work doing your job, and oh, that was a dream. But when you have the remembrance of an experience of while you were asleep, which is why I'm doing this, because it doesn't happen very often. And what time is it? It's 3:12 in the morning on Tuesday night, and I just watched another people are getting tired of it, another Indian cinema movie, great movie, and I just got up and I put the computer on to read emails and blah blah blah, and I was like, I want to talk about my dream, my nightmare, and welcome to my nightmare. And I did. And this is, hey, I don't know. If I remember my next nightmare, I might do another one of these and create a playlist. But this is me, Roger D, probably not doing something he's supposed to be doing by talking about his nightmare. But I hope it was entertaining to you. I hope, write down below if you've ever had nightmares that you remember and what they were like. There was a point, a good 25 years ago, where when I got up and I went to work, I actually typed out what I remembered from my nightmare, and I have about 7 or 8 of those, and I just wrote what I remembered, just like I spoke it out now. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. I don't know. There are scientists and psychiatrists and stuff that analyze and say all dreams mean something. I have no idea, other than I think I'm playing too many video games. It was like a video game dream. But it was so cool when I got to the bar and met Dean Martin. It was so cool. It was just like, Wow. And I didn't care at all about Marilyn Manson, Marilyn Monroe, because I don't know much of her other than Some Like It Hot and 7-Year Itch, and that's pretty much it. She was in 7-Year Itch, right? Yeah. So anyway, let's end this. It's old Roger D, Channel Downstar. Thanks for watching. Write down below if you had any weird dreams. Write down below if you think I'm mental in the head. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the brain. And then we'll see everybody in the next video. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.